Have you ever wondered what really happens after death? What if someone died for 7 minutes and came back with revelations so shocking that they could completely change their view on the future of humanity? In today's video, you will hear the breathtaking story of Jacob Wright, an American paramedic who had an unbelievable near-death experience after a rescue mission and came back claiming to have seen the true future of the Earth. Get ready for an extraordinary spiritual journey with visions of cities of light, superior beings, and a surprising destiny for us all. If you believe that nothing happens by chance, this video was made for you. Like it, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any content like this, and comment below the city you're watching from. We want to see how far this message will reach. My name is Jacob Wright. I was an air rescue paramedic in Nevada, 33 years old when I died, for 7 minutes. And in those minutes, I saw something no one is prepared to hear. It all started out as an ordinary afternoon, clear skies, quiet radio, until the call came in. A serious accident on Route 50, the loneliest road in America. My crew and I went up in the helicopter as we had done hundreds of times before, but this time, fate had different plans for me. We landed on a deserted stretch of road. The car was twisted, smoke was pouring from the hood, and a man was trapped in the wreckage. As I tried to stabilize him, he came to a stop. I did compressions, mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. He coughed hard, right in my face. I didn't think about it at the time. It was my job. It was instinct. We saved his life. But over the next week, something inside me started to die. A brutal lung infection, fever of 41 degrees, rushed to hospital. At the hospital, while they were administering antibiotics, my heart stopped. I died. And it was at that moment that reality as you know it simply fell apart. It was like falling into a tunnel of light, but there were no walls, no bottom. I felt weightless, translucent, as if my consciousness had been freed from an invisible captivity. Metallic sounds disappeared. The dense air of the hospital became an infinite space and full of colorful pulsations, as if stars had a life of their own. The first thing that came to my mind was, this is the real thing. My body, an old garment, my story, a script of a character that I played so hard that I forgot it was just a play. A presence approached, without a defined form, but full of energy. It spoke without a mouth, but it passed through me with direct messages. It showed me, or rather allowed me to remember who I really was. And in that instant, I saw what was yet to come, the true future. What I saw next was no ordinary sight. It was no dream, no fantasy. It was as if my human mind had been replaced by a universal consciousness, one capable of understanding truths that no earthly language could explain. And yet, I will try. I was led by this presence, this energy, into a kind of ethereal field. It was neither heaven nor earth. It was something between realities, where everything seemed to vibrate at a pure frequency. It was the place where time did not exist. Past, present, and future overlapped as if they were transparent pages of the same book. There I was introduced to what they called architecture of the future. Imagine seeing millions of energy trails, each representing a timeline. Some were dark, chaotic. Others shone like rivers of gold. A voice or thought said to me, "The future of humanity is shaped by the choices of the present, but even so, there is already a future that beats more strongly than the others, and that is the one we have come to show you." And then, everything changed. I was pulled into one of these trails, and there, I saw the earth, but not as it is today. There was no war. There was no hunger. The cities seemed integrated into nature, made of light, as if they were extensions of people's own consciousness. Children played without fear, and the adults were different. They did not wear social masks. Each one was transparent, not with their skin but with their soul. No one lied. No one hid pain. It was as if everyone had remembered who they really were, fragments of the source, living a collective experience to evolve together. And this was the revelation that completely disarmed me. The pain of the earth is not the end. It is the process. You are in the midst of transition. Suffering is the fever of healing. At that moment, I cried, not with my eyes, because I didn't have any eyes in that state, but with whatever I was there. I cried because I had forgotten all of that, because I had lived believing that life was just work, debts, survival. The truth is that we, as a species, are being gestated, and the birth is near. After glimpsing the future of Earth, I was led to a place that, to this day, I do not know if it was a spiritual plane, a higher civilization, or the very heart of the universe. But I can tell you the name I heard in my mind when I got there, the City of Light. It was as if we were floating above a metropolis made of living consciousness. Nothing was solid in the earthly sense. The buildings were materialized vibrations, shimmering in hues my physical eyes would never recognize. Every color held an emotion. Every shape told a story. And I was invited in. A being of humanoid appearance, but completely translucent, accompanied me. He said to me, without moving his lips, "Here are those who remembered." Remember what? I thought. And he answered before the question even ended. Of the mission, of the purpose, of the plan, and most importantly, of the origin. There lived consciousnesses that had gone through the earth cycle, like me. They had felt pain, fear, loss, war, addictions, loves, and deaths. But they had transcended. It was not about superiority. It was about spiritual maturity. They had completed a process. They were there, studying how to help those who were still stuck in oblivion. And it was at this point that something unimaginable happened. I was taken to a kind of observation deck. From there, I could see the Earth, but not as a planet. It appeared as a gigantic soul, wrapped in emotional wounds, silently crying out for help. Every war was an open wound, every injustice, a crack. But between these pains, I saw lights rising, millions of points lit in unlikely places, slums, prisons, hospitals, trenches. These are the souls awakening, said the being. The darkness is not winning. It is only exposing its weakness, and that is why you need to go back. I didn't want to hear it, not after feeling that peace, but something in me began to understand. This wasn't a tourist visit. It was a calling. Before I could respond, he showed me the last vision. What happens to Earth if she remembers who she is? The final vision was so overwhelming, so indescribably powerful, that I felt as if my soul was dissolving just to absorb it. It wasn't an image. It was an experience. I became the Earth itself, awake. Imagine billions of people feeling at the same time that they are more than flesh and bones, feeling, deep in their hearts, that they belong together, that the division between races, religions, and nations is an illusion carefully cultivated for millennia, and that now, like an old shell, it is breaking. I have seen hospitals become temples of spiritual healing, schools teach empathy before mathematics, and governments replaced by circles of wisdom, where leaders speak from the heart and not with promises. But the most impressive thing was seeing the energy around the Earth. It was no longer cloudy, heavy as before. It was radiant, with a frequency so high that waves of cosmic love circulated between all living beings. Animals, humans, forests, oceans, all connected, communicating silently as a single consciousness, as a single soul. And at the heart of this transformation was something unexpected. To miss, yes, the pain, because it hadn't gone away completely, but now it was viewed with reverence, not as punishment. It was treated as what it had always been, a portal of expansion. The presence beside me explained to me, suffering is the alarm clock. You feared it, but it was the most faithful teacher, and now you are ready to grow without it. I wanted to stay on that future Earth. I wanted to inhabit that body, awake, free from fear, bathed in meaning. But suddenly the vision began to dissipate, like smoke in the wind, and the presence said to me, "You didn't see this by chance. You saw it because you're going to sow it." I tried to hold on to that reality with all the strength of my consciousness, but it was in vain. The City of Light disappeared around me. The lookout point disappeared. The presence moved away with the look of someone who understands that love also knows how to let go. And then, I felt the worst feeling ever, the return. It was like falling from a star straight into an abyss. A dull thud, a crushing silence, followed by the most overwhelming feeling of all, weight. Returning to the human body is not gentle, it is brutal. It is like putting on concrete armor after having floated as pure light. I felt every part of my spiritual being pushed back, compressed into flesh and bones and memories, and with it came the thoughts, all at once. Who am I? Why did I come back? How can I live knowing what I saw? The physical pain was nothing compared to the pain of separation, of losing that state of grace, of breaking with the truth. I felt like a bird with its wings clipped, thrown back into a windowless cage, but the presence had left me something before it left. Not with words, but with energy, a silent mission, and along with it, a poignant reminder. Don't try to convince, just remind. My eyes opened, artificial lights, beeping monitors, the smell of antiseptic. I was in the hospital, and for a few seconds, I thought about screaming, telling everyone what I had seen, but I realized it would be no use. Not at that moment, because what I had experienced could not be expressed in words. It was a direct impact on the soul, and then, one last echo resounded within me, as if the presence was still nearby. The world you saw exists. It already vibrates on other planes, and every choice made with love, every act of compassion, brings this reality closer to the surface of the earth. It was at that moment that I understood. I had returned to remember the forgotten, to spread seeds of that future in every conversation, every gesture, every silence filled with intention. But the hardest part was yet to come, living with the knowledge that I had already experienced paradise, and choosing to stay here every day, out of love for those who had not yet awakened. Even after I returned to my body, something inside me remained different. It wasn't just the memory of the city of light. It was as if a part of me was still there, functioning in parallel, tuned into another reality. And that's when I understood something that would change my perception of everything forever. Time is not linear. There, on that plane where I was taken, time was like a living organism, flexible, malleable, responsive to the intentions of consciousness. The past was not something fixed, and the future was not something distant. It was something that responded to the present, which was shaped by what we feel now. I saw timelines like rivers intertwining, separating, merging again, and I realized there is not just one future. There are countless futures, but some vibrate more strongly because they are more aligned with the divine purpose of creation. That future they showed me, the awakened earth, is not a promise. It is an active potentiality, a path available, waiting to be chosen for all of us. And that's when I saw something that left me breathless. Even without lungs in that dimension, I saw my own future self, living on that transformed earth. I was different. My face was more serene. My eyes were full of wisdom. My heart was at peace. And I was not alone. There were others with me, people that, on earth today, I might not even know yet. But there, we were soulmates, united by the same purpose, to rebuild the world from the light that inhabits every human being. The presence explained to me, almost smiling, the near-death experience is a reminder, not an accident. Many are being called to remember what they have forgotten, that the future is a mirror of the inner self. Align yourself with love, and it will come. That wasn't a prophecy, it was an invitation. And even though the weight of the flesh tried to sink me, the seed of truth was already planted in me. What I saw cannot be unseen. What I felt cannot be unfelt. I was a man marked by a vision. The future is alive, and it is listening. Even after I returned to my body, something inside me remained different. It wasn't just the memory of the city of light. It was as if a part of me was still there, functioning in parallel, tuned into another reality. And that's when I understood something that would change my perception of everything forever. Time is not linear. There, on that plane where I was taken, time was like a living organism, flexible, malleable, responsive to the intentions of consciousness. The past was not something fixed, and the future was not something distant. It was something that responded to the present, which was shaped by what we feel now. I saw timelines like rivers intertwining, separating, merging again, and I realized there is not just one future. There are countless futures, but some vibrate more strongly because they are more aligned with the divine purpose of creation. That future they showed me, the awakened earth, is not a promise. It is an active potentiality, a path available, waiting to be chosen for all of us. And that's when I saw something that left me breathless, even without lungs in that dimension. I saw my own future self, living on that transformed earth. I was different. My face was more serene, my eyes were full of wisdom, my heart was at peace, and I was not alone. There were others with me, people that, on Earth today, I might not even know yet. But there, we were soulmates, united by the same purpose, to rebuild the world from the light that inhabits every human being. The presence explained to me, almost smiling, the near-death experience is a reminder, not an accident. Many are being called to remember what they have forgotten, that the future is a mirror of the inner self. Align yourself with love, and it will come. That wasn't a prophecy, it was an invitation, and even though the weight of the flesh tried to sink me, the seed of truth was already planted in me. What I saw cannot be unseen. What I felt cannot be unfelt. I was a man marked by a vision. The future is alive, and it is listening. When I thought I had seen it all, I was taken to one last place, a space that was not made of matter, nor of light, but of living intelligence. I don't know how to describe it. It was as if the very fabric of the universe had become conscious, and I was just a fragment floating in its presence. There were those whom the presence called architects of the cycle. They had no human form. They were like silhouettes composed of vibrational codes, with colors and sounds that merged into hypnotic patterns. But I understood their every thought, their every intention, as if we were part of the same organism. They showed me a colossal spiral. Each turn of the spiral was an evolutionary cycle of humanity. Wars, falls, rebirths, enlightenments. But now, something was different. We were on the last curve before the transition, and they said, "You have reached the tipping point. What comes next depends on how many will remember." It was then that I realized the magnitude of what was happening on Earth. This collective pain, these social breakdowns, the divisions, all this was not the end. It was the birth, the final contraction before the birth of a new reality. I saw how many are awakening in silence. Ordinary people, with seemingly normal lives, but who are having strange dreams, strong intuitions, a sense of inexplicable urgency. These souls are thikis, living seeds of the new world, and I also saw how every choice made with love, every act of compassion, every true forgiveness, creates a real impact on this evolutionary spiral. It is not metaphor, it is spiritual engineering. Before saying goodbye, the architects gave me one last message, which resounded like thunder within me. The future is not divined, it is designed, and every awakened soul is a potential architect. And then, I was thrown back. No warning, no negotiation. I felt my spirit being pulled down, passing through layers of density as if I were diving back into a dark ocean. And I knew the mission had begun. Returning to the body was like being slowly ground into dust. I'm not exaggerating. After experiencing the lightness of the higher plane, the density of human flesh was like being covered in hot concrete. The first thing I felt was emotional weight, not physical. It was as if all the insecurities and fears and traumas I had ever buried were waiting for me, with open arms. There was no welcome, there was shock. The awareness of what I was, of what I had seen, was entirely within me. But the body just wanted to sleep, to escape, to forget. It was at that moment that I understood what many who have had an NDE report, but few can translate. The greatest pain is not dying, it is coming back. I felt like I was trapped again. That world of light and purpose and unity was now locked on the other side of a door that only opens with an awakened heart. And this world here, this world seemed deaf, slow, hostile, but still, something inside me refused to forget. There, I was reminded of a non-negotiable truth. We came to Earth to remember who we are, in the midst of oblivion. And that's the hardest game. It's not about escaping from pain. It's about going through it with the awareness that it's a temporary illusion. It's about transforming this prison into a school, this flesh into an instrument, this life into a bridge. And no matter how much the human mind tried to convince me that it had all been a delusion, my soul laughed, because it knew, because it saw. I had touched the true future, and somehow, inexplicably, it was now touching me too, in the little things, in every person I met, in every word I chose, in every silence. The future, that future, was not far away. He was already here, disguised as just now. In the days after I returned, something strange began to happen. I noticed people who glowed, not literally, but there was something in their eyes, in the way they spoke, as if they were silently sharing the same secret I now carried. And then I realized, we are everywhere, awakened souls, scattered like seeds in a dark field, some still buried under fear, others beginning to break the surface, and some already blossoming, disguised as doctors, teachers, truck drivers, single mothers, young people in crisis, ordinary people with an invisible calling. That struck me as an undeniable truth. The future I saw will not be built by messiahs or superheroes. It will be planted, day after day, by those anonymous souls who heard the inner call and chose to live. Remember who they are. And the most impressive thing is that this memory doesn't require perfection. On the other side, I was shown that the spiritual journey is not about being good in the human moral sense. It is about being whole, authentic, able to look within, face the shadows, and still choose love. The future I saw is the reflection of an awakened collective, not enlightened on a pedestal, but enlightened in everyday life. It is the result of billions of decisions made consciously, even when no one is looking. And that's when everything fell into place. The experience I had, the temporary death, the vision of the city of light, the architects, the spiraling time, all of this was just the beginning, because now the real work began. Living in this world, without forgetting the other, every breath I took became a reminder, every challenge, an opportunity to practice what I saw, and every person who crossed my path could be a seed ready to germinate. The only question left was, how many will remember, before time forcibly reminds us? I am no longer the same man who boarded that helicopter that day. The Jacob of old died, not because his heart stopped, but because his soul awakened, and what remains in his place is a silent messenger of something that many sense, but few dare to say. We are on the verge of something great, and no one is prepared. I'm not talking about the end of times. I'm talking about the beginning of a completely new time, a time where humanity will no longer be defined by fear, ego, or scarcity, but by consciousness, collaboration, and light. I saw that future. It pulsates on the subtle plane like a wave about to break the surface. It is not a utopian paradise. It is a real earth, with real people who simply remembered. They remembered that pain is not an enemy, that the other is not a threat, that love is not weakness, and that living with purpose is not a luxury. It is the original mission of all of us. This near-death experience was not an accident, nor was it an exclusive blessing. It was an urgent reminder, a summons, because now, more than ever, the future is listening, and every thought, every intention, every attitude is an answer. I do not return to the same world I left. I return to the silent battlefield where the old and the new fight for space within each of us. I return as a sower, and if you've listened this far, maybe you're ready to remember too. You are more than you think. You came from a place of light, and the future I saw can start today. If you like this beautiful spiritual testimony, leave a like, comment your impressions, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to activate the notification bell to watch each new video and help us spread this message to a greater number of people. Until next time.